Well, testimony now underway in the federal retrial of Brett Hankison, a former Louisville police officer charged in the death of Breonna Taylor. One of Hankison's fellow officers, Miles Cosgrove, who was fired for killing Taylor, testified he was shocked when he says Hankison opened fire through covered windows without seeing a target and that he was almost hit. Hankison is charged with violating the civil rights of Taylor, her boyfriend, and their neighbors during the botched 2020 raid. An initial trial ended in a mistrial last year. He has pleaded not guilty. Let's bring in our legal contributor, Shauna Lloyd, for more. So, Shauna, the prosecution called Hankison's actions unfathomably dangerous, but his defense argued that even if he violated policy, a policy violation is not always a criminal act. So what will be the prosecution's strategy here for proving that a crime was committed?
So the prosecution is really going to tie his actions to the violation that they see of her civil rights, along with the other neighbors that were potentially endangered by his actions. So the prosecution is really going to hone in on the fact that even though this was a departure from the department standards, this also took the extra steps of violating those civil rights, and that is why he should be convicted under these particular charges.
So this is the third trial in a row where we heard from one of Hankison's co-workers, Officer Miles Cosgrove. He says that he was shocked when Hankison actually opened fire. What are your takeaways from his testimony?
You know, it's always interesting when we have an officer testify against another officer, because he was, in fact, the officer whose bullet killed Breonna Taylor. So when he's testifying, it creates a little bit of a issue with jurors, because he's the actual person whose bullet killed her. However, he's testifying against another officer. So when we see that, there's a lot of impact when one officer will say to another, this was actions you should not have taken, even though his bullets, Hankison's, did not actually impact Breonna Taylor.
So the last time Hankison was tried, it ended in a hung jury and a mistrial. So how does the court avoid that outcome this time around?
Well, the prosecution is really going to try to hone its case. Let's remember that although there's been three trials, this is the third trial. The first was a state trial. This is the second federal trial. So the prosecution has had a chance to see what the defense has presented, how jurors reacted to that. And so they're really going to hone their case in on what they feel like are their strong points in order to get that conviction. Obviously, the court is really going to work to not have another mistrial in a deadlocked jury, but that always comes down to the jury box. Can the prosecution really make that point that this was a violation of her constitutional rights clearly enough that all jurors choose and decide to convict?
Shauna Lloyd, appreciate you. Thank you.